Hi, it's Deborah Carter here today with Preparation Tech. We've got a great interview lined up with you. Today I'm speaking with Michael Okwusogu, who is a banker in the Middle East. And I heard about Michael because my son is in a club with a bunch of other Black boys, and every week they talk about different industries and different aspects of careers and stuff. And Michael was the last keynote speaker, and I was listening in, and he was just so good. And my son has not stopped talking about banking for the last week. So I thought, let's share the wealth. Let's get Michael in front of you to talk about banking, finance, business, as well as the intersection of technology. So Michael, welcome. Let's take it away. Tell us what you do.
Thank you very much, Deborah. It was good to see you last week. Have a good initial conversation. So what do I do? So I've been a banker for 21 years, predominantly in the UK, or should I say predominantly based in the UK. Past year and a half, I have been based out in the Middle East. I have been there in the past. What do I do right now? I work as a chief operating officer in a financial markets division of a banking group. It's a role in whereby I support the head of the business unit in strategy. That is in devising strategy and executing strategy. I also manage the business administration, for want of a better word. So how do we run the business? How do we manage the business? So I am the stakeholder manager with internal departments, be they operations, be they legal, be they finance. We're a very big part of what we do. Be they other aspects within other business units. Also as well, I support and I also provide a performance management capability. So it's a health check of the business, all right? And that's where data becomes very important for us, where we collect information from all the group units across the globe, and we identify how the businesses are doing, where we need to improve on things, where we need to continue to do well on other areas. And also as well, it's part of our strategy, how we then look forward to the business. Another part of what I do as well is I also manage group initiatives. So I say group initiatives, I mean group insofar as my business unit, and how we look about how we grow and mature the business. So that's really, there's several things I do. I mean, I think that the job of a COO was in my previous role as a COO, but that's a difference, an entity COO, how you run the company itself. It's jack of all trades, king of none, Deborah, and that's really what we are.
I love that. I love that that characterization, which is a lot of jobs these days. So you just have to be a generalist and have a lot of knowledge across a wide group of fields, right?
Great.
So my next question is, are you a tech user or a tech creator? And how do you use tech and data in banking?
I think, first of all, let's dispel some urban myths about technology and data. It has been with us since time began. Give an example, the common wheel, all right? It was technology that created it. It was data that those who improved on it used to make it what it is, right? You know, the first chariots in the Assyrian Empire were built off a very simple data set they took from someone else, right? So I am a tech user. Could you say I'm a tech creator? Sorry, a data creator? Depends really in what concepts and what we're trying to do. And I think with banking, it's very difficult to try and, especially the time we have, to try and pinpoint any one area. All I can say to you is that in banking, as in most aspects of life, actually, especially in banking, without data, we can't do our jobs. And that's been the case since time began, right? And that's, how do I, if I'm doing, like, say, normal retail business, extending loans, I need data to be able to know if you're a good risk or not. That has not changed in millennia.
Right. What kind of data, for the people who have no background in finance or banking, what kind of data drives your work?
So I'll probably put it in different buckets, actually. So financial data drives our ability to provide and make markets in the products which we support, right? So that's data insofar as prices, That is in securities. That's in economic data as well, all fed in, and that enables to create a data set, right? Another data is basically when we transact and execute a trade, the economics of that, right? So basically, how much are we making? How much are we paying out? Because there's a cost to there's always a cost of business in anything you do, right? So what is that, right? On the other side, you have data insofar as what we call performance management. That enables me to know on a monthly basis, actually on a daily basis, how much we're making, how much we're paying out, and where we're potentially losing, all right? Then you have another data set, which is the risk, which is a big, big part of what you do, right? Everyday risk of consuming lots of data from different areas, different channels. It could be from outside agencies, because they need to do that. It could be internally from the transactions which we're putting through the funnels. And then they create the risk metrics that is built off data, you know? On the other hand, I use data with an operational perspective with my operations. So how many trades are we transacting? What's the volume? What does that mean for their capacity? Do they have enough people to be able to manage that load? So there's lots of different ways in which I'm a consumer, I'm a producer, I'm also a distributor. And also at the same time, the people doing the same thing with me, right? We don't have one particular role in how we manage and utilize data.
Now, what are the tech tools that you use? Because you've got all these points of data. Just can you give us a general description of the tech, the devices or the software or the tools that you use to make your job easier managing this data?
Yeah, so I mean, it's natural, of course, you have your bog standard computers, right? But ours, from a trading perspective, front to back, we're modified. So we have trading platforms, right? You may have a normal keyboard, but that keyboard has a multifunction, right? It enables you to type, but also transact, you know? Also as well, your monitors are split insofar as basically you may have one that enables to read your emails, of course, but also you have one that gives you access to financial markets. So Bloomberg is a classic one, right? Thomson Reuters. Also at the same time, you have APIs that enable you to plug into a trading venue, right? And that enables you to then be able to, through your same keyboard, to transact with other counterparties off another venue that may well be based in, I don't know, let's say Germany, for example, right? Yeah. And then your counterparty might be based in Hong Kong, all through your computer, right? You know, so on the other hand, then you have the kind of what I call the post-trade data, which we receive. And that's for your internal core banking platforms, right? And that's what generates your transactions. That's what generates your P&L. That's what generates the raw data set that you then use to create your key risk indicators, key performance indicators, and your critical risk factors.
Right. I've got in front of me someone who is so passionate about banking, who's just, I think you could talk about this for days.
I hope not.
Take us back to your childhood. How did Michael become a banker? Tell us about your childhood. What did you love to do? Who were your influences?
Well, my childhood. So my dad was a successful businessman. He was in oil and gas in Africa. Now, the reason why my dad's story resonates with me is because my dad left formal education at the age of 11. And, you know, you have to appreciate this is a time, you know, there, you know, back in the my dad was born late 1920s. So, you know, 30s, 40s, when really, you know, back then, especially in Africa, you know, education, I won't say it was since an afterthought, but especially if you're the male, your job was to get out there and work, right? You know, and, you know, support the family, right? Support the community. But my dad left from education at 11. He sent his brother, my uncle, to school and also university in the UK. So he was the first one to go to university, you know. My dad was very, very, he was a good businessman. And what I mean by that is basically great communicator, but had a head for figures. And he was also fearless when it came to business, which you have to be, right? And you have to appreciate that basically, this is Africa, especially pre-colonial times when, you have to be rough and ready. And of course, when independence came, even rougher and ready. you know, so, it was able to, he cut his teeth at a time when really, fortune favored the brave, So you took that on board. And as a result of that, listen, I went to great schools in the UK. So I use that as an example as what I went to do. And I was brought up in a business environment, my people, it's people laugh about, our subset of West Africa, that all we ever do is business. But I'll be honest with you, it's in our blood, right? And I've always been interested in it. So I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, where we lived in London at that time, back in the 80s, the nearest shop was about 15 minutes from our house, right? So of course, I was a run to the litter. So I was the one who did all the errands. But I would charge people 50p.
Oh my
Depending on where I was going, it'd be 50p to a pound, right? So from an early age, that's what it was. Time and effort, right? And so and I've taken that on board. And I've always been, I think for me, it's been about, I've always had an avid interest in entrepreneurship. When I did my MBA, I specifically specialized on the entrepreneurial aspect of it, as opposed to the general box standard business administration. And I think you have to appreciate understanding of what your strengths and weaknesses are, your own SWOT analysis. I think it's very important once you mature mentally to understand that. Mm-hmm. So that's where it comes from me anyway.
So you always had a head for math and technology. What we hear a lot and what we see in the research is that what prevents kids from going into tech, into business, into finance, is that they can't master basic math, because you need it, right? You need to be able to really grow your math skills. And so it sounds like from a very early age, you were exposed to at least mathematical thinking and the figures and everything else. So that's good to know. Tell us a bit about your schooling. So what degrees did you do? Where did you do them?
Yeah, so the reason why I'm hesitant is I did 2 degrees. I didn't finish one. So there's a rationale for that. So my first degree was actually in Leicester. It was Business Information Systems. And I did that. I was playing rugby in Leicester. So that's the reason rationale for doing that degree. Then I got tapped by another club in London, back in London, and I changed to a degree in London. And I did political sciences with business law. But within my political science, it was actually political economy and business law. So that, that's where, for me, that's where my interest lay. I always been very clear that, I didn't want to do a degree to satisfy others. I want to do something to satisfy me. Ultimately, I'll be doing it for 3 years, maybe 4 years, right? So I did that in my initial degree. On my bucket list, I always had an interest in doing an MBA anyway. I just felt that basically, in order to equip myself to be in the position I want to be in years to come, I needed that kind of foundation. So I've always been very quite forward thinking in that respect. So I digress slightly here. So my friends would laugh at me when I was 18. I took a pension when I was 18. All right. Yeah. So I've always been sort of, forward thinking in that respect. So I did my MBA. And then I felt that gave me the tools to be able to, or the platform to move on to the next level. Many years later, back in 2018, I took an executive development program at Saïd Business School at Oxford. Again, I just felt that I was at that stage where I think I had accumulated enough experience, but again, to move me to that next platform, that next level, I needed something else. And I'm not saying that you can get that from education purely. I just think that for me, it's what works for me, right? I want to see what's out there and learn. Things I take. Things I don't take, you discard. That's how it is, really, But I think doing that 1-month course at Saïd Business School was an eye-opener for me, because it told me that all the things I had learned on the job over the past 20 odd years, right, actually, by and large, were the right things. So therein lies the lesson. Do you need to spend all that money to learn what you know already? or do you potentially do it anyway because it doesn't leave you worse off anyway. You know what I mean? You know? So I did that, and I was happy that, I was in my month course, I was around, guys. I mean, there was one guy who was a very senior banker in a big African bank. There were guys who were in the central banks in South Africa, senior guys there. There were guys who were very senior guys in organizations in Australia and New Zealand. And I'd always felt like, I wasn't worthy until I got there. And I realized, actually, you know what? Yeah, I probably know more than most. And actually, yeah, I don't know anything. I mean, and I think you need to learn that, all right? So now, as one of my friends keeps saying, I'm a typical African student, perennial studier, educationalist, right? I've got my eye on a PhD, and I've been thinking about this for the past 10 years, Deborah. I keep thinking I'm going to do it, press the button, then I pull back. I think, oh gosh, 5 years, isn't it? And I say,
but I'm
but
sure
you've got to start thinking about, life and, what's the value to it and blah, blah, blah. But I think in Christian now, I think I will do it because it's not so much about what it helps me from a job perspective, it's what helps me from a personal perspective. So I think I will do it. I've told my boss already, so he's aware that that will be coming probably next year.
you strike me as a person who has a bucket list and you're checking everything off. Yes, very much so. Let's talk about your international career, because you have moved between London and the Middle East. And as you've moved, do you see a difference in the way tech and data are used in banks?
Yes. Now, even when I was based in London, so I had a global team that I managed. Granted, I was based in London. I had a North American team. I had an APAC team, Asian Pacific, to be precise. And even with then, you saw the differences in the way data was being utilized. Now, when you work for a global organization, there is a standardization and uniformity in how that data is managed and utilized to a certain degree, right? So otherwise, you can't run a global organization. Otherwise, you need to have, some sort of bureaucratic pool, right? That's the only way you can manage it. But when you peel it down to the second or third level, you realize actually how they were consuming that data, but importantly, how they were producing and interpreting that data was different, right? And that's within the same organization, all right? So my first stint in the Middle East was a classic example of, part of a global group. If I went to Hong Kong, New York, London, Paris, or let's say Dubai, for example, I should expect no difference in that data. That's true. But then you then realize actually the interpretation and the distribution and the management of that data is different. Hence why it made you realize this is why I have problems with these guys, or they have problems with me, because we've got the same data set, but guess what? We've got different eyes looking at it. It's literally different eyes, So that's how that was my first eye opener. But also as well, at the same time, coming to this region, I realized that, and that's not across the board. I think if you're in a global organization, it's slightly different because you have that uniformity, which you need to have. I think the regional organizations and the local organizations, I think their data journey is probably somewhat at the kindergarten and preteen level, I would say, right? And again, I have to caveat all this because I've always had this thing about digitization and technology. And my view has always been that you can have the best digitization infrastructure or the best technology infrastructure, but if you've got the wrong people at the helm doing the wrong things at the wrong time, it doesn't matter, right? My view has always been it's people that make the technology, not technology makes the people. So even coming over here, you see that, yes, the data sets might be quite vanilla, but ultimately there is a wealth of information there, just how you, not going to say manipulate, but how you aggregate and disaggregate it, and but it goes with it. Yeah, it starts with the people. You have to start with the people.
Mm-hmm. And this segues perfectly into my next question, which is, we've got parents, teachers, school guidance counselors out there who are advising kids on what career paths to take. What is the mindset of someone who is successful in banking, finance, and business. What are the personal characteristics that these people should have?
I'll be honest with you, Deborah. I mean, I think it's an interesting question because I don't think it's specific to my industry. It's across the board. And again, we haven't got time to go through all the different examples, but I think one which, everyone probably knows, of course, is, Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos, right? What are the character traits that these guys have or successful people have? It's grit at the end of the day. It's the ability to keep going when everything is going wrong. It's the ability to understand that you're right, fundamentally, right? But also understand when you're wrong, right? And when things are wrong, it's how you understand how you react, right? If something's wrong, sometimes people just give up. But if something's wrong, those who keep going ask one question: why is it wrong? Right? And that's how they iterate. They keep learning. They keep moving forward. But if I'm honest with you, it's about believing your conviction, and it's all about grit in anything in life. So even for me, for example, would I say that I've achieved, I've reached a mountaintop? No, I haven't. But then there are people who look at me and say, actually, to be fair, Mike, you have. And I think sometimes I need to look back and think, actually, you know what? My mistake in the past is comparing myself to others. But you don't know where they came from. You don't know what road they were on, My road's very different. And I've achieved what I've achieved through determination, grit, and belief. I've been written off a lot of times, Deborah, but I keep coming back like a punch-drunk boxer, right? So I just think that's what it is. I think you just need to instill in your kids a sense of belief. That's the one most important thing. Belief. Again, I'm a Christian, so I'll say another thing for me as well. It's been my faith as well, right? If I'm brutally honest with you, right? It's been my faith. When things have gone wrong, I tell you what, lean on the man upstairs. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, definitely. That's how I was raised as well,
Yeah.
And I think it's something about Black culture too. The faith and the religious practices that this is the mentality that we have. Question: what can schools do better to prep kids for careers in banking, finance, technology? Do you think they're doing an adequate job?
I think I'll probably strip that away and say, actually, one of the issues you have right now, not just the generation, millennials, and probably, what are they, Z? Or I'm X, whatever generation millennials. We don't have enough financial literacy amongst the common population, right? People don't know enough about how they manage their affairs, their financial affairs. They don't know enough about investments, about pensions, the basic things that which you need. God willing, there's a good number of us who will reach retirement age, right? But we're just not equipped. So I think what needs to happen is basically schools need to, it's not so much about maths, it's about financial literacy, financial management, right? What I do, with my brood and my family members, the younger ones, is I plug into them about how they have to start looking at investments, looking at their financial management, the basic things. If something's worth £20, for example, you have to ask yourself a question right now: what's the value of that to me, all right? And if I really want that, what do I have to do to get there? It's about money management. It's about personal management, and we don't have enough of that in schools. So I don't think it's just about maths and technology. It's about teaching people financial literacy.
And maybe the technology becomes a tool in order to do that.
Technology is a tool. Technology is, I think, again, an urban myth about, I know when people say we're the fourth technology revolution, or the fourth industrial revolution is now technology. But with all due respect, we have been in a continuous loop of technology innovation and disruption since time began. And I'm a history buff, Deborah, and people forget about it. No, history repeats itself constantly, all right? But we never learn the lessons. There we are.
Yeah. My final question to you:
Yeah.
How can parents prepare their kids for the future, for, again, careers in banking and tech, and especially kids who are really into like math and finance and financial literacy? What can we be doing to really nurture them?
I think, first off, I think it's exposing them to those influences from an early age. I think schools now, some are doing better than others. You know, you're exposing children to technology very early on, right? The use of iPads, the use of computers. In our time, Deborah, you know, that was not part of the curriculum, right? You know, it was maths, sciences, RE, and that was it. I think that's the box standard it. You know, so I think, you know, so I think exposing them right now to technology, coding, right? But again, making it interesting. At a formative age, up until probably I can't remember now how old it is now, I think 10, 13, that you formulate your ideas as an individual, you know, that's an opportunity to really instill in them those buds, you know, and, you know, sow those seeds and they will grow over time, you know. But I think that's what parents have to do, you know, really expose those kids right now to all those things, but make it fun and interesting, because as we well know, attention spans of 3 seconds, right? You know, make it interesting.
How? I'm not going to let you get off so easy. Are there courses online that kids can do that you know of? Investing in the stock market.
Yeah, there was you know, you've got MOOCs, right? You know, MOOCs out there, you know, the online learning, fantastic. They've got Khan Academy, right? Which is very, very good, the Khan Academy. There's another one which I was looking for it, and I was gonna, I'll see if I've got it. If you don't mind, Deborah, I'll just put you aside. And I think I saved it on my favorites, because I was looking at it a while ago for my little one. Yeah, no, I can't find it.
But just describe it. What does it do?
Basically, it teaches children from a very early age financial literacy, financial management, but it does it in a fun way, right? It does it in using the tools which they use to use, the cognitive tools, you know. Very interesting, you know, and it's a very good way of really exposing them toward that. On investments, for example, you know, if your child tells you, no, oh, I want to do a paper round, don't discourage them, encourage them, but ask them why they want to do the paper round. How are they going to manage their round? You know, again, it's not just for financial literacy, Deborah. It is customer relationship. It is sales. It is marketing. It's all the tools you need to be an entrepreneur. And if they have a zest for it, you know what? Put a fire around it. You know, let them get on with it and support them on that journey. You know. Yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. Michael, this has been an awesome, awesome interview. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you again for inspiring those boys, my son, and now hopefully a lot of other kids. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.